Welcome to Healing in His Hands, a sacred space for healing, faith, and just honest conversations where I apply scripture to real life. I'm your host, Mariah, and I just want to thank you for being here. So, if you haven't followed along in some of my last episodes, totally fine. You have the opportunity to do so. But we have been in the book of Job. So just diving into grief and where it's been in my life, and how God just met me in the center and how He can meet you as well. But today we will continue in the book of Job. Last episode we discussed just questioning God, right? Like asking why are we in this position? Why are we dealing with this hurt? So today we're going to continue in the book of Job, but just dive in a little bit deeper when one of Job's friends speaks to him in a way that just exalts God and who He is. So it's really good. It's in chapter 33. I got my big Bible again. So we'll go ahead and just open up and start. It's it's his friend. I can't pronounce his name. Elihu presents his case against Job. So I'm just going to go ahead and start from chapter 33, verse 12. So he says, now mind you, before this, okay, just a little bit of recap. He's dealing with his friends. So Job has already pleaded his case to God and just asking like, hey, like what have I done? What sin have I committed? Where have I gone wrong for this to happen to me? For the loss of my family, for the things I've gone through, for the hurt that's been upon me, And Job is just pleading his case to God. And his friends are in the midst of it, just, talking to him. He has friends in his life. At first, they were doing really good. You got to go back to one of those episodes. But one of my episodes where I was talking about how his friends, they were just there to help him through the process of grieving. But then it was like more, they weren't being as, what's the word for it? They weren't showing as much love, right? In a way that we need, especially people that are dealing with grief, people that are dealing with loss. There's just different ways to talk to people, and that was just something they were kind of struggling with, They were just not being the kindest, and it really affected Job. And he's just like, but I did nothing wrong, I'm innocent, like I'm so really good. But so that's a little bit of the recap. So now we're listening to one of his other friends. This is the youngest of the friends. And at first he just starts off like, I've let you all talk. Okay, I've let you guys go back and forth, but now it's my turn. All right. So, and yeah, really good. He's a real one. He's a real friend. Okay. You need these type of people in your life. But so chapter 33, and we're going to start off in verse 12. So he says, and he's talking to Job, but you are wrong, and I will show you why. For God is greater than any human being. So why are you bringing a charge against him? Why say he does not respond to people's complaints? For God speaks again and again, though people do not recognize it. He speaks in dreams and visions of the night. When deep sleep falls on people as they lie in their beds, he whispers in their ears and terrifies them with warnings. He makes them turn from doing wrong. He keeps them from pride. He protects them from the grave, from crossing over the river of death. So, yeah, it's deep, Definitely takes a lot, because sometimes there's conversation you can have with people and it could sting a little bit, but in the back of your mind, you're like, ooh, I needed that, and I feel like this friend really was the wisdom that Job needed right now in this time, just to, without the backlash, not pointing fingers at Job directly, like, it's your fault, like, instead of being like that, he's coming off in a way that's showing the love of God and who God is in the midst of it. So I just really love this. But when he says, He whispers in their ears and terrifies them with warnings. He makes them turn from doing wrong. He keeps them from pride. He protects them from the grave, from crossing over the river of death. And then he goes back, he says, he speaks in dreams and visions of the night. Um, oh man, it's so crazy, but he does. Like, God does. And it's so crazy because being able to reflect on what I've gone through and what's occurred, I write down and you guys seen from last episode, I keep my journal. I'm always journaling, especially when God speaks to me in moments, especially when I'm spending time with him in the morning or just throughout the day. If he speaks to me throughout the day, I pull out my phone. I have my notes. It's just filled, okay, with just times and moments of God, little visions that he gives me, and I just write them down so I could look back on them and just reflect, so just being able to read through this, God reminded me of a dream that he gave me before, and this is when Nick was still alive, and this was like 2 years before he even passed away, and it was so crazy. And I remember telling Nick of this dream, and when I told Nick of this dream, he was just like, I don't know, Mariah, like, that's deep, like, that sounds like a scary dream, like, what do I do? And I was like, honestly, I don't know what the dream means, and then I was, my relationship with God, it wasn't as intimate to where I was like feeling as if I could hear from him. I was always doubting if I heard from him or not. But so I wasn't sure. I just was just telling Nick, like, hey, like, all I know is that just be careful. You know what I mean? Be careful. You never know what can happen. And it was just crazy. So to reflect back on it now, it's like, whew. But so in the dream, we're sitting in this dark room, and in this dark room there's nothing around us. It's like we're on a stage of some sort, but it's completely pitch dark around us. Like, there's nothing, and it's the only thing there is just this light, and it's just me and Nick in this room, and the light is like shining down on us, and Nick is laying on me. He's like I'm holding him in my arms. And as I'm holding him, I just see he's like has all these wounds in his body, He has all these different wounds in his body, and they're constantly like just bleeding out, and I'm just crying, and I'm like, why? Like, what's going on, And I'm trying to patch up every wound, but every time I tried to patch up one wound, another one would form. And it just was like that for a while. I remember waking up that night crying, you know what I mean? Like, God, like, what was that? You know what I mean? And I'm just like, in my mind at first, I'm like, okay, maybe that was from the enemy, I'm like, okay, so, but then I'm just praying on it, like praying against it, whatever it was, and I told Nick, just letting him know, like, hey, I don't know what it meant, but just to be careful. And just to know I had that dream, right? And now here we are now with Nick's passing. It's upsetting, but at the same time, it was like God just like preparing me for what was to come, and letting me know that no matter what I did, I couldn't save him, Oof. And so I know that God just speaks to us, and little things, and when I say this, I do not want to scare anybody. If you're having dreams, again, the importance of just spending time with God, discerning whether the dreams are from him or from the enemy, or just fears that you're having, because the enemy likes to manipulate the things that we are afraid of. So I don't want you to say, oh my gosh, I just had this dream. You know what I mean? Like, because literally my kids have been having this dream lately, just this last week, and both of my kids. So my son, he's having a dream about losing his sister, okay, and they've been having it like 3 nights in a row. And then my daughter's having a dream about losing her brother. Both of them having dreams about each other, losing one another. that I knew, okay, that is from the enemy. You know what I mean? Like I was able to discern it and I talked to God about it, like, no, So I'm praying against it. I'm praying over my children. Literally, because we've dealt with this massive loss in our life and the hurt that my children are dealing with, the enemy's taking that and like just putting this fear upon them to where they're waking up out of their sleep crying, thinking they're gonna lose their sibling, you know. And oh man, I'm just like, oh no, not my house, you know. So I'm just praying against it. I'm like, that is not of you, God. I rebuke that in your mighty name. But so just know, just speak to God, discern the dream. So do not be afraid, okay? I don't want to scare anybody with what I'm saying right now and about the dream I had. Saying that something's to come to pass. That spend time with God, get wisdom, speak to wise counsel, okay? And if you're having these type of dreams, and discern who it's from, okay? And but yeah, so I just wanted to say that now, so you know. But yeah, so it's just crazy because God can speak to us in these dreams, and literally, who was it? So let me look on my phone. I put it to the side. Make sure I had it up. Okay, so it was April 3rd. Okay, so now April 3rd, it was crazy because I said in one of my other episodes, I have this prayer box, you know, and in this prayer box, I keep a bunch of names, you know, people, and I'll just go ahead, shake it up, and I always pull it out, and whoever I pull out, I'll pray for them, you know, and then I put the name back, shake it up again, shake it up real good, you know, and just continue to shuffle it every day so I know who I'm praying for. So on April 3rd, these are just in my notes, they're on my iPad, but I literally wrote, today was day 3, I wrote in capital letters, that I pulled Nick's name out of the prayer box. And I'm just like, okay, God, like you clearly want me just to continue to pray for Nick. So I am just praying for him, right? And mind you, so Nick passed away April 11th. So this is April 3rd. Ooh, get the chills talking about it. But this is April 3rd, right? Again, because God knew what the enemy had planned, you know? And so God just has me praying for Nick, and I'm praying for him, and I'm like, okay, God, like I'm gonna continue to pray for him, you know. And again, day 3, I pulled his name, and this time when I prayed for him, ooh, man, when I prayed for him, I remember God just showing me this vision of Nick. And Nick was just, ooh, I shared this at his celebration of life. But, so I remember him crying, you know, and he's like in this like child like state, you know, and he's just like crying and he's rocking back and forth and he's so sad, you know, he's so sad and he's just like crying with his hands over his face, his hands just, you know, he's crying, he's just so sad, and it goes on like that for a while, and I'm like looking from a distance, you know, so it's like I'm not in the dream, I'm just seeing what's going on, and it's just like because I'm like, as I'm sitting there in the prayer room, I'm like just seeing this, you know, as I'm just closing my eyes praying, and I just see Nick, I can see him, but I can't touch him, you know, and he's just crying, and then all of a sudden, it just gets so bright in the room, it just gets so bright, oh, it gets so bright, and I just remember seeing so many, it looked like a bunch of like, just people, you know, they're standing around in this big circle and they're all dressed in white. They have white tees, white jeans, white Air Forces. They're all dressed in white, you know, and they're dancing around in circles, and they're just singing out loud. They're just praising God, and Nick starts walking up towards them. And Nick's not crying no more. He's not hurt no more. And now he's like full of joy. He's full of so much joy, and he looks so happy, and now he's dressed in all white, you know, and now he joined the circle and he's dancing with them. And of course, when I seen this vision. Oh man, I'm not even knowing what God is talking about, right? In my mind, I'm like, okay, God, I know that he's saved, right? Like he's saved. Like he's already declared you over his life. Because in the other episode, I talked about how we had went out to eat, and I told him, just if you believe with your mouth, okay, who God is and who Jesus is, that he died for your sins, like you will be saved. Like we went through the whole discussion, we had this conversation. So I'm immediately like, I'm just crying tears of joy. Like, okay, like thank you, God. Like yes, I know, right? Not knowing, ooh, not knowing, ooh, sorry, not knowing that God was telling me what was to happen, and that Nick was gonna be with him when he passed. Oh man, it's like I didn't know. So, but I know now that he is in heaven, that he is with God, and that he's smiling, and that he's happy, that he's not having to hurt no more, that he's not having to deal with people just filled with hate and just this cold world that we live in. He doesn't have to deal with any of that no more. He is living such a free and oh, joyful life. And I'm so thankful that God allowed me to see him like that, to see where he's at now. So like when I'm sad, I try to remember that where he's at, you know. And I remind the kids of that too, like to encourage them when they're asking me, especially my son, you know, because he's 7. So he's always asking me questions like, what do you think daddy's doing right now? And I'll tell him, like, he's dancing. He's probably, I was like, he's probably having a ball up there, because anybody that knows Nick knows how crazy he was. So I was like, he's probably he's probably riding 4-wheelers, like who knows what he's doing. He's just having a blast. And that's just gives me that sense of peace, you know, to where I'm able to exhale and know that he's with God. And you have to hold on to those things. So if God has spoken to you in these moments, or however he's speaking to you, you know, hold on to that. Hold on to it. Write it down. Okay, I'm telling you, because then you'll be able to reflect back on it later. So but just being able to acknowledge that, and then reading, you know, reading chapter 33, when he says, you know, God speaks again and again, though people do not recognize it. Recognize it. Don't brush it under the rug thinking it was just something, you know. Just write it down, because you just never know. This could be something to encourage you later. Again, but speak to God about it. Speak to wise counsel. Discern who the vision or the dream was from, you know. But yes, he speaks to us in dreams, in visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on people. Like he does. So, and he'll even speak to us through other people. So so that brings me to the next part. So the next verse in chapter 33, verse 23, he says, but if an angel from heaven appears, a special messenger to intercede for a person and declare that he is upright, he will be gracious and say, rescue him from the grave, for I have found a ransom for his life. Then his body will become as healthy as a child's, firm and youthful again. When he prays to God, he will be accepted, and God will receive him with joy and restore him to good standing. Oh. So reading this just reminds me too, because it was also in my notes. I have a voice message that was sent from one of my mentors, and and this was like towards the end of February 27th, I think he sent me this audio, and he just wanted me to know. He's like, hey, he's like, I just want you to know like something that God's been speaking to me, and I just want to share it with you. And as he's explaining it, he's just telling me like, hey, like Nick knows you. He knows you before you were saved, because we've been together since we were 16. He was like, he knows you before you were saved. And now he knows you super saved. He knows you now. He knows the difference. He knows and he sees that. He was like, don't stop being yourself. Continue to be who God is calling you to be. Continue to just walk in that, because you don't even know, but the way that you're moving is just a light to Nick in the time that he's in right now. And that you being able just to continue to encourage him, bring him that love and that light that he needs right now is going to move in a way that you don't even understand. And it's just so crazy, because reading this, it's like to be able to intercede for someone, it works. Oh man, it's like intercession is so powerful. And intercession is when you're standing in the gap between that person and God. And that's what I was doing. I was interceding for Nick. Oh, not knowing what was going to happen, but I was standing in the gap. I was standing in the gap between him and God, because God continued to have me pray for him. And I'm just going, and I know the hurt that Nick has gone through. I know what he's dealt with from his childhood until adulthood. I've known it all. So I'm praying against it all. I'm praying for all of it. And I'm asking God just to take it away. Take away the pain, for him just to be able to live just abundantly, right? And just to continue to enjoy Nemo, enjoy the kids, taking them out. He always just does fun stuff, just enjoying them, being able to do so. And me just praying for that, just interceding constantly, just praying in tongues, I mean, not everyone knows how to do that, and that's okay. When you're praying, allowing the Holy Spirit to speak through you, okay, and you're just praying in tongues, it's, man, crazy. But I learned at a conference through my church like a year and a half ago, so super thankful. But definitely just being able to pray out loud, because when you're praying in tongues, like the enemy don't know what you're praying. You know what I mean? The enemy doesn't understand what you're saying. So it's like, because when you are praying, the enemy knows, and God hears you. God hears you, but the enemy hears you also as well. You know what I mean? But when you're praying in tongues, the enemy don't understand what you're saying. So it's just powerful. It's like, it's just a conversation between you and God, and you and God alone. So that's what I'm doing. I'm standing in the gap. I'm praying for him. I'm asking God just to do a work in him that is exceedingly beyond what I can imagine. And just restoring him in a way that I know Nick needs and what he needed in that time. And so I'm just constantly praying for him. And now that I see that, being able to reflect back now, and just knowing like, oh, I'm so thankful, right? I'm so thankful for the time that we had together again, just to be able to share and just have the little glimpses of our family again, and the kids seeing us happy, and just being able to thrive. And I cannot thank God enough for that, because the way we were able to talk with one another and just love on one another, and not have to argue, and be able to not get defensive when we say things, like just being able to talk through things like in a mature way. It was just like, oh man, I couldn't understand it. I just knew it was God. It was God, and but just being able to see now, like, wow, God, you gave me that time with Nick so I can intercede for him. And that's what I did. I just prayed for him and just continued to ask God to soften his heart. And over time, Nick started asking about God. And when I'm sending him the devotionals, I'm reading them to him in the morning, like literally sending the text to him, like, look at this devotional, read this out loud. And then we're talking to him on the phone, and I'm just like reading the devotional. He's like, that's really good. Like, wow, that's good. Or he's asking questions, and I'm breaking it down a little bit more. But that, oh man, him wanting to know who God was, just that time, and that was God just doing the work in him. And I remember when Nick was telling me, that he was saying, he was like, he had Nemo, overnight, and he was telling me that he was like, Nemo's been, who? He said, Nemo's been helping me learn how to pray. Oh, man. And I just love that, because I know that Nick was praying to God. And just seeing that, here when it says, when he prays to God, he will be accepted, and God will receive him with joy and restore him to good standing. Like, oh man, it's just such a good feeling, to know that he is in good standing, that he's right beside God, and that he is filled with joy, and he is not hurting no more or dealing with anything that he has to stress and financial things, and he's not having to worry about none of it. His family drama, just the lack of trust and love from his friends and the people around him. Like, he doesn't have to deal with any of it no more. It's like he is literally living, oh man, he's living a good life now. And I'm thankful for that. And but it's hard, because of course, as you guys can see, I'm still emotional, right? Because it's like, it's up and down. It's like I'm like crying, but I'm happy at the same time. It's like, because even though I'm sad, God knows how broken I am. God knows the pain I have in my heart from losing Nick. But he also allowed me just to have these moments where I can glimpse back and know where Nick is at. So where I can have this sense of peace. So, I just want to go ahead and just encourage you, whoever's out there, whoever has just dealt with loss, who is grieving, who's dealing with like a financial burden, who's ever dealing with maybe just conflict, with friends or whatever it could be, whatever it is. I really just hope and pray, okay, that when God is speaking to you, that you listen, that your ears are open, that your eyes are open, and your heart is open to receive what it is he's saying to you. And that you be able just to dive in deeper and just know that God's voice is always the right way to go. And just listen in on what he's telling you. Listen in on who he's asking you to pray for, because again, you don't know what's going on, but God knows, okay? And so you be that person that intercedes for whoever it is in your life. It could be someone random, someone at church, and you don't even know them. Maybe you just met them, or someone at your child's school, whatever. You don't even know, and God's telling you to pray for that person. Do not hesitate, okay? Because you are literally called to intercede. That is what we are all called to do, is just pray for one another. Intercession is so powerful. And I just, oh man, whoever God tells me to pray for, I am praying for them, okay? I trust and believe, because I've literally witnessed it for myself, how God can use you. So, so good. I hope that you guys are encouraged by this episode. Of course, I want to end off with the healing in his hands declaration. So if you can repeat after me, close your eyes. You don't have to, it's totally up to you. But in his hands, I am healed. In his hands, I'm restored. The same hands that have carried me through will continue to sustain me. I am safe. I am seen. I am held in his hands. One more time. In his hands, I am healed. In his hands, I am restored. The same hands that have carried me through will continue to sustain me. I am safe. I am seen. I am held in his hands. Well, I love you guys. I hope you guys have an amazing week. We are in February. I don't know when you're watching this, but so it's a love-filled month, one of my favorite months, only because it's my birthday month. But I hope you guys are doing amazing, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode. Love you. Bye.